Hey, everyone! Welcome back to the channel. In the summer of 1518, the city of Strasbourg in France was struck by one of the strangest events in history. Hundreds of people suddenly began to dance, uncontrollably. They danced in the streets for days. Some collapsed, some died. The cause remains a mystery to this day. This is the chilling story of the dancing plague of 1518. All across Europe, the year 1518 was shaping up to be a good one. The continent had just emerged from the grip of the Black Death and was enjoying a period of relative peace. But in the Holy Roman Empire, there was trouble brewing. In the prosperous trading city of Strasbourg, located in present-day eastern France, life was not as blissful as it seemed. Yes, the city was a hub of commerce, but rampant poverty and hunger plagued its inhabitants. Crops had failed in recent years, and the price of grain had soared, leaving many citizens on the brink of starvation. Tensions were high and tempers were flaring as people struggled to survive in these difficult times. And then the heat came, sweltering temperatures that turned the streets of Strasbourg into shimmering mirages. As the sweltering summer dragged on, so did the misery. People were desperate for a reprieve, a respite from the oppressive heat and the gnawing hunger that tormented them. Little did they know that a bizarre and terrifying ordeal was about to unfold, an event so mystifying that it has echoed through the annals of history, becoming known as the Dancing Plague. Amidst this backdrop of despair and sweltering heat, a lone woman named Frau Troffea took to the cobblestone streets. Her movements were strange and disturbing, a stark contrast to the grim reality that had become all too familiar in Strasbourg. Frau Troffea was dancing, and it wasn't just any ordinary dance. No, her steps were frenzied and erratic, her body contorting in ways that defied both logic and reason. She danced day and night, seemingly oblivious to the scorching sun above and the concerned glances of those who witnessed her bizarre spectacle. What compelled her to dance in this manner? The answer remained shrouded in mystery, hidden within the labyrinth of her mind. As days turned into nights, the woman continued her relentless dance, becoming a focal point of attention in a city that desperately needed something, anything to divert its troubled thoughts from the dire straits it found itself in. But as the woman's dance continued unabated, a sense of unease began to creep upon the citizens of Strasbourg. They watched in bewilderment and growing concern as she danced with an intensity that seemed almost otherworldly. The question on everyone's lips was, why? Why was this woman dancing herself into exhaustion? The city's clergy, seeking to find meaning in the inexplicable, attributed the woman's strange behavior to a curse that they believed was sent by none other than Saint Vitus himself, the patron saint of dancers. According to their beliefs, the saint was so angered by the frivolous dancing of a group of young people that he cursed them, causing their limbs to twist and warp, forever trapping them in a state of uncontrollable movements. Could this be the same curse that was now afflicting Frau Troffea, or was there a darker force at play? As the community grappled with these questions, the woman's dance went on, becoming more frenetic with each passing moment. The mystery deepened, casting an eerie shadow over the already troubled city. As if the woman's bizarre dance wasn't enough to disturb the residents of Strasbourg, a new and terrifying development was about to unfold. One by one, more people began to fall victim to the same uncontrollable dancing. Men, women, even children were stricken, their bodies taking over as if possessed by an unseen entity. Soon, the streets of Strasbourg became a macabre dance floor where dozens upon dozens of people gyrated and convulsed, their movements eerily synchronized as if guided by an invisible hand. Fear swept through the town like wildfire, turning neighbor against neighbor, friend against friend. People looked upon their afflicted loved ones with suspicion, wondering if the next to succumb to the strange dance would be them. The unity that had once bound the community together was quickly dissolving, replaced by fear, confusion, and despair. Parents hid their children indoors, locking them away to protect them from the contagion of dancing. Merchants shuttered their shops, abandoning their wares to the mercy of the elements. The city, once bustling with life and commerce, was descending into chaos and panic. Desperate for answers and fearing for their very survival, the people turned to the authorities, hoping that somewhere could explain this terrifying phenomenon that had taken root in their midst. The council, faced with the daunting task of restoring order to their city, devised a plan that, in their minds, could put an end to the madness. They believed that the solution lay in music. If dancing was the problem, then dancing to a soothing melody would be the cure. With this logic, the city council hired musicians to fill the streets of Strasbourg with harmonious tunes. Their intention was to lure the dancers away from the crowded streets to the open fields outside the city walls. It seemed like a simple, almost whimsical solution to a terrifyingly complex problem. But as it turned out, it was a decision that would only make matters worse. As the musicians played their hopeful melodies, the dancers, instead of being calmed, became more frenzied, their movements faster, more erratic than before. It was as if the music fueled their frenzy rather than soothing it. Days turned into nights, and the music never stopped. But neither did the dancing. The musicians played on, their hopeful smiles fading into grim determination, hoping against hope that the dancers would eventually tire. But the plague, far from abating, seemed to grow stronger with each passing moment. The dancers, weak and exhausted as they were, refused to give in. And as their strength ebbed, so did the resolve of those who had hoped to end the plague through music. With their efforts failing, the authorities were forced to confront the grim reality of the situation. The plague was not going away. To make matters worse, as the dancers continued to dance, some collapsed from exhaustion or heart attacks, only to rise again and continue their macabre dance. The stench of stale waste and unwashed bodies permeated the air, mingling with the haunting strains of music that echoed through the city. Hospitals were overwhelmed with patients suffering from exhaustion, broken bones, and other ailments brought on by the relentless dancing. Medical science was baffled, offering no explanation or cure. Amidst this terrifying ordeal, rumors began to spread like wildfire, each more outlandish than the last. Some whispered that the dancing plague was God's punishment for the sins of Strasbourg. Others claimed it was a curse cast by an angry witch. The truth, however, lay buried beneath layers of fear, superstition, and desperation. But amid the terror and uncertainty, some sought solace in faith. They organized processions, urging St. Vitus to end the dancing plague that had paralyzed their city. The faithful gathered, their prayers echoing through the ancient streets, hoping for divine intervention to end the nightmare. But St. Vitus, it seemed, was either deaf to their pleas or simply unwilling to intervene. The dancing plague continued unabated, defying both medical science and religious faith. It was as if the city of Strasbourg had become a battleground between the rational and the irrational, where logic and reason were powerless against a force that defied understanding. As the weeks passed, the situation in Strasbourg grew increasingly dire. The city, once vibrant and prosperous, was now on the brink of collapse. The dancing plague had taken such a firm hold that daily life had ground to a halt. Shops remained shuttered, markets emptied, and the streets were perpetually filled with the discordant strains of frenzied dancing. The people of Strasbourg, weakened by hunger and exhaustion, were on the verge of succumbing not just to the dancing plague, but also to the dire straits that it had brought upon them. The city's leaders, desperate for a solution, reached out to neighboring towns, pleading for aid. But the response was not what they had hoped for. The outside world, ignorant of the true nature of the plague, saw it as a threat to be contained, not a crisis to be resolved. Thus, Strasbourg found itself increasingly isolated, cut off from the very help it desperately needed. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the dancing plague came to a halt. The people of Strasbourg, their bodies broken and spirits crushed, collapsed in the streets, their limbs giving way after weeks of relentless dancing. Relief, tinged with disbelief, washed over the city. The nightmare was over, or so they thought. The silence that followed was deafening. It was as if the city had collectively exhaled, releasing a breath it hadn't realized it had been holding onto. The streets of Strasbourg were empty. Those who had been dancing were nowhere to be seen. Had they vanished into thin air? The answer, however, was more grim than anyone would have hoped. The people who had succumbed to the dancing plague were taken to a shrine dedicated to St. Vitus in the hopes that the saint would heal them. But it was a futile gesture. Many of them never woke up from their dance-induced slumber. Some did recover, but they bore the scars of the plague, both physical and psychological, for the rest of their lives. The dancing plague of 1518, a harrowing ordeal that left an indelible mark on the history of Strasbourg. It serves as a chilling reminder of the fragility of the human condition and the perplexing mysteries that have always surrounded humanity's existence. The exact cause of the dancing plague remains unknown, lost to the mists of time. Historians and scientists alike have put forth various theories, each attempting to shed light on this bizarre phenomenon. Some believe it was a case of mass hysteria, a psychological reaction to the collective trauma of living under the shadow of the Black Death and enduring the hardships of famine and economic instability. Others suggest that the dancing plague might have been triggered by ergot poisoning, a condition caused by a toxic mold on rye bread, which can induce hallucinations and convulsions. The religious among them attribute the outbreak to divine punishment or a curse, reflecting the deep-rooted belief in a world governed by spiritual forces. But ultimately, the truth behind the dancing plague remains elusive, a tantalizing enigma that invites speculation but offers no definitive answers. The dancing plague of 1518 continues to captivate and terrify us, reminding us of the darkest chapters of our past and the enduring mysteries that lie at the heart of human existence. It was a time when the line between sanity and madness, reality and hallucination, was frighteningly blurred. In the midst of a world teetering on the brink of chaos and despair, the people of Strasbourg danced themselves to exhaustion and sometimes to their deaths. Their story is a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity in the face of adversity, but also to the terrifying power of the unknown. The dancing plague remains an enigma, a puzzle whose pieces may forever remain scattered across the sands of time. Thank you for watching. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Till next video, enjoy your time with History Revealed channel.